In my first life, I was Chen Meilin, heiress to the Chen Group pharmaceutical empire, engaged to my childhood sweetheart, Zhou Kaiming, heir to the Zhou family's tech conglomerate. What I didn't know was that Kaiming had been systematically sabotaging my family's business for 3 years, feeding information to his secret lover, my supposed best friend, Lin Xiaoya, who worked for our biggest competitor. When I discovered their affair and the corporate espionage 3 days before our wedding, I confronted them. That night, my car's brakes failed on the mountain road leading to our wedding venue. I died knowing it was no accident, my last sight being Kaiming's cold eyes in the rearview mirror of the car that had been following me. Now I'm staring at my 22-year-old reflection in the mirror of the hotel suite where I'm supposed to be having my final dress fitting. My hands shake as I touch my unmarked face. No surgical scars from the accident, no years of betrayal etched in fine lines. It's 3 days before my wedding to Zhou Kaiming, exactly where everything went wrong. But this time, I remember everything. My phone buzzes. A text from Kaiming. Emergency board meeting moved up. Can't make dinner. Handle the seating arrangements yourself. Even his dismissive tone is exactly the same. In my first life, I'd been hurt by his growing distance. Now I recognize it for what it was. Guilt manifesting as cruelty. I dress carefully in the outfit I remember wearing that day, but this time I slip a small recording device into my purse. I know exactly where to find them. The private dining room at the Shangri-La is dimly lit, just as I remember. Through the gap in the sliding doors, I can see them. Kaiming's hand possessively gripping Lin Xiaoya's waist as she spreads confidential Chen Group documents across the table. His voice carries clearly. Once we're married, I'll have full access to her father's files. The new diabetes drug formula will be ours within 6 months. Lin Xiaoya's laugh is soft and cruel. Poor Meilin. She actually thinks you love her. Should we tell her at the reception how we've been using her family's guest bathroom for our afternoon meetings? My recording device captures every word, every casual dismissal of my worth, every detail of their 3-year conspiracy. In my first life, I'd burst in screaming, letting emotion overwhelm strategy. This time, I retreat silently. But as I walk through the hotel lobby, my phone rings. Kaiming's voice is sharp, urgent. Meilin, we need to talk, now. Something's happened. My blood runs cold. He remembers, too. 20 minutes later, he's standing in my hotel suite. But this isn't the Kaiming I knew from either timeline. His eyes hold the weight of someone who's lived through decades of consequences. He moves with a predator's stillness that wasn't there in our youth. You're not the only one who came back, he says quietly, studying my face with unsettling intensity. The question is, how much do you remember? I keep my expression carefully neutral, but he reads me anyway. Everything, he continues, answering his own question. Good, that makes this easier. He straightens his cufflinks, a gesture I remember from board meetings in our 40s, not something 24-year-old Kaiming ever did. I died differently than you, Meilin. Lung cancer at 58, alone in a hospital bed, all my wealth and power meaningless. But before I died, I learned something interesting about your accident. My mouth goes dry. His smile is sharp as broken glass. I didn't kill you, but I know who did and why. In this life, I'm going to make sure you understand exactly what you cost me before you die again. And this time, your death won't be quick. He walks to the door, then pauses. Oh, and Meilin? Cancel our wedding if you want. I don't need to marry you anymore to destroy everything you love. I have 34 years of knowledge about every weakness in your family's empire, every skeleton in every closet, every pressure point that will bring the Chen name to ruin. You may remember our shared past, but I remember what came after, including exactly how to dismantle everything your father built. The door closes with a soft click that sounds like a death sentence. Kaiming thinks he's declared war, but he's just given me the most valuable intelligence possible. He doesn't know who really killed me, and he's operating under the assumption that I'm still the naive girl who let love blind her to obvious manipulation. His arrogance will be his downfall. I spend the night making calls, not to cancel the wedding, that would be too obvious, but to accelerate my father's retirement plans. By dawn, I've convinced him to announce his intention to step down as Chen Group's CEO within the year, with the succession plan to be revealed at our wedding reception. The news hits the financial papers by 8 a.m. Keiming's response is swift and predictable. He calls demanding to know why I'm making major family decisions without consulting him. His voice carries the entitlement of someone who thought he'd already won. Darling, I purr into the phone. It's not a decision, it's an opportunity. Imagine how it will look when the Chen Group heiress marries the Zhou heir and then immediately takes over both companies' pharmaceutical divisions. We'll be the power couple of the industry. There's a long pause. I can practically hear him recalculating. I need to see the succession documents, he says finally. Of course, dinner tonight, just us. I'll bring everything. But I don't go to dinner alone. Instead, I call someone Keiming won't expect. Marcus Chen, his best friend, and my father's godson, who returned from Harvard Business School just last month. In my first life, Marcus had been traveling the world as a venture capitalist. I'd barely known him beyond childhood birthday parties, but I'd heard Keiming mention him in passing. How brilliant he was. How they'd stayed close despite the distance. What Keiming doesn't know is that I've spent 3 days researching Marcus extensively. Not the trust fund wanderer I remembered, but a quiet genius who'd been building his own investment empire from the shadows. More importantly, he'd been quietly buying shares in companies that compete with both Chen Group and Zhou Technologies. Maylene? Marcus sounds surprised when I call. His voice is deeper than I remember, more assured. Shouldn't you be in wedding preparation mode? I need your advice on something urgent. Business advice. Can we meet? An hour later, we're sitting in his minimalist downtown office. Marcus has his father's sharp cheekbones, but his mother's kind eyes, though there's an intelligence behind them that suggests he's been underestimated his entire life. I spread the succession documents across his desk. My father wants to retire. Keiming expects to inherit control of the pharmaceutical division through marriage. But I think there's a better way to handle this transition. Marcus studies the papers with a laser focus. You want to maintain family control while expanding market presence. Smart. But this structure leaves you vulnerable to a hostile takeover if your marriage fails. What if the marriage was never the point? He looks up sharply. What are you suggesting? I lean forward. I'm suggesting that maybe the Chen Group needs a CEO who understands both traditional pharmaceuticals and the emerging biotech sector. Someone with Harvard training and independent funding who could take us global without compromising family values. The air between us shifts. Marcus sets down the document slowly. Are you offering me a job, Maylin? I'm offering you an empire, but first I need you to come to my wedding reception and make Keiming an offer he can't refuse. That evening, instead of meeting Keiming for dinner, I call him from Marcus's office. Change of plans, I say cheerfully. Marcus is in town and we're discussing some exciting opportunities. Why don't you join us? When Keiming arrives, his expression is carefully controlled, but I can see the tension in his shoulders. He's thrown off by the change in routine, the presence of a variable he hadn't accounted for. Marcus stands to greet him with genuine warmth. Keiming, man, it's been too long. Maylin was just telling me about your plans to merge the pharmaceutical divisions after the wedding. Was she? Keiming's smile doesn't reach his eyes. It's brilliant strategy, Marcus continues, but I think you're thinking too small. Why stop at pharmaceuticals? With your tech expertise and the Chen Group's research capabilities, you could dominate the entire medical technology sector. For the next 2 hours, Marcus weaves a web of possibilities that makes Keiming's original plan look like child's play. He speaks of global expansion, government contracts, technology that could revolutionize healthcare. And throughout it all, he positions himself not as competition, but as the key to unlocking everything Keiming has ever wanted. By the end of the meeting, Keiming is leaning forward, eyes bright with ambition that goes far beyond simple revenge. The only challenge, Marcus says thoughtfully, is timing. These opportunities won't wait for traditional corporate structure changes. We'd need someone who could move fast, make decisions without being bogged down by board approval processes. Someone like you, I say quietly. Marcus shrugs. I have the freedom and the funding, but not the infrastructure or the research capabilities. When we part ways that night, Keiming shakes Marcus's hand with real enthusiasm. We should definitely continue this conversation. But as they embrace, I see Marcus's eyes meet mine over Kaiming's shoulder. There's an understanding there that chills me. Not because it's malicious, but because it's calculating in a way that reminds me uncomfortably of myself. The next morning, I'm reviewing wedding seating charts when my assistant knocks. Miss Chen, there's been a development you should know about. Zhou Kaiming withdrew his family's investment from the Yangshan Medical Research Project an hour ago. They're citing shifting strategic priorities. My blood runs cold. Yangshan Medical was supposed to be our salvation in my first life. The project that could have saved the Chen Group if we'd had proper backing. Kaiming is already making moves I don't understand, using knowledge I don't have access to. But then my phone rings. Marcus's voice is calm, almost amused. Interesting timing on Kaiming's withdrawal from Yangchen. Lucky for you, I know the lead researcher personally. Dr. Sarah Kim and I were classmates at Harvard. She's been looking for private funding for months. Marcus, I'm about to make an offer that will give us controlling interest in a project that could be worth billions. Kaiming just handed us the opportunity of a lifetime. As I hang up, I realize I may have solved one problem by creating another. Marcus isn't just helping me outmaneuver Kaiming. He's positioning himself to benefit regardless of the outcome. The question is whether he's my ally or simply a more sophisticated predator. That afternoon, my father calls with news that makes my blood freeze. Meilin, there's been an accident. The Yangshan lab suffered a break-in last night. Several years of research data have been corrupted. Dr. Kim is devastated. 3 weeks after my wedding to Kaiming is supposed to have happened, I'm standing in the ruins of what was meant to be my honeymoon suite, signing divorce papers instead. Not because he died, though he probably wishes I had, but because I publicly humiliated him in a way that made marriage impossible, while somehow making him look like the victim. The wedding reception had been perfect theater. With 300 of the city's elite watching, I'd presented Marcus as the new CEO of Chen Marcus Biomedical Solutions, our revolutionary joint venture. Then I'd played the recording of Kaiming's conversation with Lin Xiaoya, framing it not as betrayal, but as industrial espionage that threatened national pharmaceutical security. Kaiming couldn't deny the evidence, but Marcus's brilliant legal maneuvering meant that instead of facing criminal charges, Kaiming was offered a choice. Dissolve the engagement quietly and accept a consulting position with our new company, or face a very public trial that would destroy both our families. He chose the first option, but not before whispering in my ear during our last dance. You think you've won something, but you have no idea what you've just unleashed. Now, a month later, I understand what he meant. Chen Marcus Biomedical is a phenomenal success. Our acquisition of Dr. Kim's research, combined with Marcus's connections and my family's manufacturing capabilities, has created a pharmaceutical powerhouse that's attracting international attention. We're 3 months away from clinical trials for a diabetes treatment that could revolutionize the industry. But success has painted a target on our backs. The first sign of trouble comes from an unexpected source. Zhou Kaiming's father calls my father directly. Chen Dingshan? His voice is cold with fury. Your daughter has made a powerful enemy. My son may have accepted this arrangement, but I have not. The Zhou family has been in business for 4 generations. We don't forget humiliation. The second sign is more subtle. Marcus comes into my office with a frown, scrolling through his tablet. We're being investigated, he says without preamble. Health Ministry, Tax Bureau, Labor Board. 3 separate departments, all citing anonymous tips about regulatory violations. Anonymous tips that sound like they came from someone with intimate knowledge of our operations, I observe. Someone who knew exactly which permits to question and which timelines to challenge. Marcus looks up from his tablet. Malin, there's something else. I've been getting calls from investors I've never spoken to, asking very specific questions about our research protocols. Questions that suggest they know more about our work than they should. That evening, as I'm leaving the office, I find Lin Xiaoya waiting by my car. She's changed. Gone is the soft, manipulative best friend I remember. This version of Xiaoya moves with predatory confidence, dressed in a power suit that probably costs more than most people's cars. Hello, Meilin. You look tired. Building an empire is exhausting work, isn't it? Xiaoya. I keep my voice neutral, though my hand instinctively moves toward the pepper spray in my purse. I heard you took a position with Hengtai Pharmaceuticals. How are you finding corporate life? Her smile is sharp as glass, illuminating. Did you know that Hengtai has been researching diabetes treatments for 7 years? Imagine our surprise when a startup company suddenly produces breakthrough research in the same field. My blood runs cold, but I keep my expression steady. Innovation happens. Sometimes multiple teams reach similar conclusions independently. Sometimes, she agrees, but sometimes one team steals another team's work and tries to pass it off as original research. The thing about stolen research, Maylene, is that it always has fingerprints. And we have very good forensic accountants. She steps closer, and I can smell her expensive perfume mixed with something else, the metallic scent of calculated malice. Kaiming was always too emotional about you, too focused on personal revenge to see the bigger picture. But I'm not burdened by former affection. I'm going to destroy your company, discredit your research, and put your precious Marcus in prison for corporate fraud. And when I'm done, you'll understand that some games are too dangerous for little girls to play. She walks away before I can respond, her heels clicking against the pavement like a countdown timer. The next morning brings worse news. Marcus storms into my office holding a legal document. "We're being sued," he says tersely. "Hengtai Pharmaceuticals is claiming we stole proprietary research. They're seeking $200 million in damages and an injunction that would shut down our clinical trials." I take the document with steady hands, though my mind is racing. This is impossible. Dr. Kim's research was completely independent. We have documentation going back 3 years. Documentation that Hengtai claims was fabricated. Marcus runs a hand through his hair. "Maylene, they have inside information about our development process. Timestamps, protocol details, even internal email exchanges. Someone with high-level access has been feeding them intelligence." The realization hits me like a physical blow. Kaiming? What? The consulting position we offered him. He turned it down, but he asked for access contracts to review the intellectual property portfolios. Said it was due diligence for potential future collaboration. Marcus stares at me. "You gave him access to our research files?" "Limited access. Read-only permissions to verify that we weren't using any Joe family patents." I feel sick. But if he shared login credentials with someone else, he could have given them a roadmap to our entire operation. Marcus sinks into a chair. "Maylene, if they can prove intellectual property theft, we don't just lose the company. We lose everything. Our family's reputations, our personal assets, potentially our freedom." That afternoon, I make a decision that will change everything. Instead of calling lawyers or trying to fight the lawsuit directly, I call someone I never expected to need, my cousin David Chen, who works in government regulatory affairs. "David, I need information about Hengtai Pharmaceuticals, specifically their research and development funding over the past 5 years. Maylene, that's confidential. David, if I'm right about this, Hengtai has been receiving undisclosed foreign investment to steal domestic pharmaceutical research. This isn't just about my company anymore." 3 hours later, David calls back. His voice is tight with concern. "Maylene, you need to call the Ministry of State Security. Hengtai's funding structure is complicated. There are shell companies involved that trace back to pharmaceutical conglomerates with ties to foreign intelligence services." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying this might not be corporate espionage, this might be economic warfare." That night, I'm alone in my apartment when my phone rings. The caller ID shows Joe Kaiming's number, but the voice that speaks is older, more tired than the man I married a month ago. "Maylene," he says quietly, "we need to meet. There are things about this situation that you don't understand. Things about why you really died in our first life." Is this supposed to be an apology? This is supposed to be a warning. You think you're fighting Lin Xiaoya and Hengtai Pharmaceuticals. You're not. You're fighting something much bigger, something that was using all of us from the beginning, including me. The line goes quiet for a moment, and when he speaks again, there's something like regret in his voice. "The people who killed you the first time aren't done with you, Maylene. And this time, they're not just coming for you, they're coming for Marcus, your family, everyone you've brought into this war. Meet me tomorrow at the old tea house on Nanjing Road. come alone, and I'll tell you who really orchestrated your death and why they're about to do it again." The line goes dead, leaving me staring at my reflection in the dark window, wondering if I'm about to walk into a trap or finally learn the truth that could save my life. The old tea house on Nanjing Road is exactly as I remember it from childhood: dim lighting, worn wooden tables, and the constant whisper of brewing leaves. Kaiming is already there when I arrive, sitting in the corner booth where we used to meet as teenagers planning our future together. But the man across from me bears little resemblance to either the boy I once loved or the enemy I've been fighting. He looks exhausted, decades older than his 24 years, and there's something broken in his eyes that wasn't there even in our worst moments. "You came," he says, not looking up from his untouched tea. "You said you knew why I really died." I sit across from him, every muscle tense, my hand resting on the panic button app I've installed on my phone. "Start talking. Do you remember your mother's death, Maylene? The real circumstances, not the story your father told you?" The question hits me like a physical blow. My mother died when I was 16, a sudden heart attack, according to my father. I'd been too grief-stricken to question the details. What does my mother have to do with anything? Kaiming finally looks up, and there's something like pity in his expression. "Your mother didn't die of natural causes. She was murdered, poisoned specifically with a compound that mimics the symptoms of cardiac arrest." My hands start to shake. "Oh, that's impossible. My father would have—" "Your father ordered the autopsy sealed and the body cremated within 24 hours. He told you it was to preserve her dignity, to avoid media speculation about the Chen family's medical history." Kaiming's voice is gentle but relentless. In reality, he was protecting the killer. "You're lying." But even as I say it, memories are surfacing. My father's strange behavior after the funeral, how quickly he'd moved to consolidate power, the way certain board members had suddenly become much more deferential. The person who killed your mother has been pulling strings in your family's business for 20 years. They've been systematically eliminating anyone who threatened their position or questioned their decisions. Your mother discovered financial irregularities that would have exposed massive embezzlement and fraud. She confronted the wrong person. "Who?" The word comes out as barely a whisper. "Your uncle, Chen Wei-ming, your father's younger brother, and the Chen Group's chief financial officer." The world tilts sideways. Uncle Wei-ming, who'd bounced me on his knee as a child, who'd taught me to play chess, who'd been my father's closest advisor and my family's most trusted guardian. "That's impossible. Uncle Wei-ming has been nothing but loyal. He's been embezzling millions through shell companies and fake research contracts. Your mother found the discrepancies while reviewing the books for the annual shareholders meeting. When she threatened to expose him, he killed her and made it look natural." Kaiming slides a folder across the table. Inside are bank records, wire transfer receipts, and what looks like correspondence between Chen Wei-ming and various offshore accounts. "How did you get these?" I breathe. "I didn't steal them, if that's what you're thinking. They were given to me by the same person who's been manipulating all of us for years." His expression hardens. "Lin Xiaoya isn't working for Hangtai Pharmaceuticals, Meilin. She's working for your uncle. She has been since college." The pieces start falling into place with horrible clarity. The affair, the corporate espionage, was orchestrated to destroy your family's business, so Wei Ming could buy it for pennies on the dollar through his shell companies. I was supposed to be the weapon that brought down the Chen Group from within. But I fell in love with you for real, which complicated things. So he had me killed. Not directly. He had Lin Xiaoya seduce me, then arrange for evidence of our affair to surface right before the wedding. The plan was for you to have a public breakdown, maybe attempt suicide out of humiliation. But you handled it too well. You were going to fight back instead of falling apart. So the car accident became necessary. I stare at the documents, my mind reeling. But if you know all this, why didn't you prevent it? Why the elaborate revenge scheme? Kaiming's laugh is bitter. Because I only learned the truth after I died. Cancer gives you a lot of time to think. And during my final months, certain people became very talkative about past secrets. Your uncle visited me in the hospital, actually. Wanted to make sure I hadn't left any evidence behind that could implicate him. He confessed? He gloated, told me how he'd been planning your family's downfall for decades, how every major business decision had been subtly manipulated to serve his interests, how your father never suspected that his most trusted advisor was systematically destroying everything he'd built. I feel sick, but I force myself to keep listening. When I came back, I thought I could prevent your death by taking revenge first. Destroy you before he could, prove that I was still useful to his plans. But then I realized something was wrong. Wrong how? Lin Xiaoya's behavior. In our first timeline, she was calculating but predictable. This time, she's different. More aggressive, more innovative. She's not just following your uncle's script anymore. She's improvising. What do you mean? Kaiming hesitates, then pulls out his phone and shows me a text message. I received this yesterday. The message is from Lin Xiaoya. The old man is becoming a liability. Time to accelerate the timeline. Chen Meilin dies within the week. Make sure you're not collateral damage. My blood runs cold. She's planning to kill Uncle Weiming too? She's planning to kill everyone who knows the truth about the original plan, including me, including you, including your uncle. Kaiming's eyes are dark with understanding. Lin Xiaoya isn't just working for your uncle anymore. She's taken over his operation entirely. And she's not content with destroying the Chen Group. She wants to control it. But that doesn't make sense. If she kills Uncle Wei Ming, how does she maintain control? She doesn't need to maintain control, she just needs to inherit it. Kaiming slides another document across the table. 3 months ago, Lin Xiaoya married your uncle in a private ceremony in Singapore. Legally, she's now Chen Weiming's wife and heir to his shares in the Chen Group. The revelation hits me like a physical blow. That's impossible. Uncle Weiming would never... Your uncle is 67 years old and has been taking medication for early-stage dementia for the past 2 years. Your father doesn't know because Wei Ming has been hiding it, afraid of losing his position. But Lin Xiaoya found out, and she's been using his cognitive decline to manipulate him into increasingly desperate decisions. I stare at the marriage certificate, trying to process what I'm seeing. She's been drugging him. Progressive cognitive enhancement, according to the medical records I found. Drugs that temporarily improve mental clarity while accelerating long-term neurological decline. Your uncle thinks he's getting treatment for his condition. In reality, she's killing him slowly while making him completely dependent on her. The full scope of Lin Xiaoya's plan becomes clear. Once he's dead, she inherits his shares. Combined with the chaos from the Hengtai lawsuit and the economic espionage investigation, she can force a hostile takeover of the entire Chen Group. And once she controls your family's pharmaceutical infrastructure, she can sell it to the highest bidder. The foreign intelligence connections David discovered aren't coincidental. They're customers. I sit back in the booth, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the conspiracy. Why are you telling me this? Why help me now? Kaiming is quiet for a long moment. Because I realized something when I came back to this timeline. I never loved Lin Xiaoya. I was seduced by her, manipulated by her. But I never loved her. I loved you. Even when I was betraying you, even when I thought I hated you, I loved you. He reaches across the table and touches my hand gently. I can't undo what I did in our first life, but I can try to save you in this one, even if it means destroying myself in the process. What do you mean? I'm going to confront Lin Xiaoya directly. Tell her I know about her plan and demand that she leave you alone. Kaiming, no. If she's as dangerous as you say, she'll kill me, yes, I know. But she'll also be forced to move against you before she's ready, while you still have time to prepare. His smile is sad but determined. I owe you a better death than the one you got last time. Before I can protest, he stands up and leaves money on the table. There's one more thing you need to know. Marcus isn't who you think he is either. Be very careful who you trust, Meilin. In this game, everyone has a hidden agenda. He walks away, leaving me alone with the devastating truth about my family and the growing certainty that I'm about to lose the only person who truly understands what we've both been through. That night, I don't go home. Instead, I go to my father's study and use his private safe access to retrieve my mother's personal effects. Things I haven't looked at since her death. Hidden in the back of her jewelry box, I find what I'm looking for: a small notebook filled with financial calculations and meeting notes, dated just days before her death. The final entry chills me to the bone. Wei knows I found the discrepancies. Meeting with him tomorrow to discuss next steps. Concerned about his reaction, but family loyalty demands honesty. If something happens to me, look for the foreign accounts under the Yangshan subsidiary. My mother knew she was in danger, and she'd left me a roadmap to prove it. But as I photograph the pages, my phone buzzes with a news alert that makes my blood freeze. Zhou Kaiming, heir to Zhou Technologies, found dead in apparent suicide. Investigation ongoing. I don't sleep. Instead, I spend the night in my father's study, using my mother's notes to trace the web of financial manipulation that has consumed my family for 2 decades. By dawn, I have enough evidence to destroy Uncle Weiming's reputation and probably send him to prison, if he lives long enough to stand trial. But more importantly, I have a plan. The Chen Group's annual shareholders meeting is scheduled for this afternoon, a gathering that will determine the company's future leadership and strategic direction. It's the perfect stage for what needs to happen next. I arrive at the office early and make 3 crucial phone calls. The first is to David Chen, asking him to coordinate with the Ministry of State Security to have agents present at the meeting. The second is to Marcus, though I keep the conversation deliberately vague. I still don't know if Kai Ming's warning about him was accurate. The third call is to my father's personal lawyer, requesting that he bring certain sealed documents that have been in storage since my mother's death. Lin Xiaoya makes her move at exactly 10 a.m. She arrives at the Chen Group headquarters with a team of lawyers and accountants, accompanied by Uncle Wei Ming, who looks frail and confused. Her smile is triumphant as she strides into my office without knocking. "Maylene, darling, we need to discuss the future of your family's company." She's dressed for victory, a sharp red suit that makes her look like she's already claimed the blood she's after. Uncle Wei Ming hovers behind her, his eyes unfocused in a way that breaks my heart. "Lin Xiaoya," I say calmly, not looking up from the documents I'm reviewing, "I was wondering when you'd make your final move." "Final move?" She laughs, but there's a sharp edge to it. "This is just the beginning. By this afternoon, the shareholders will vote to remove your father as CEO and install new leadership. Leadership that understands global market realities. Leadership like you. Leadership like the Weiming-Xiaoya partnership, yes. Your uncle has graciously agreed to serve as chairman emeritus while I handle day-to-day operations." She places a thick legal document on my desk. "Your signature is required to transfer your inherited shares to the partnership. Standard consolidation procedure." I finally look up at her, and something in my expression makes her step back. "Did you know," I say conversationally, "that Kaiming called me last night, right before he died?" Her composure slips for just a moment, a flicker of uncertainty that tells me everything I need to know. Poor Kaiming. The stress of the divorce, the business failures. Suicide was almost inevitable. Except he didn't kill himself, you did. Just like you killed my mother. Just like you're killing my uncle. I stand up slowly, and for the first time, Lin Xiaoya looks genuinely afraid. "The question is, did you really think I wouldn't figure it out?" "You're distraught," she says quickly. "Grief is making you paranoid." Am I paranoid about the progressive cognitive enhancement drugs you've been giving Uncle Weiming? The ones that are designed to temporarily improve mental function while causing permanent neurological damage? Uncle Weiming looks up sharply, confusion clearing from his eyes for a moment. "What drugs?" "The medication Lin Xiaoya has been preparing for you every morning. The special vitamins that help with your memory." I turn to him gently. "Uncle, when did you start having trouble remembering things?" About 6 months after Zhao Ya started working as my assistant." His voice trails off as understanding dawns. Lin Xiaoya moves toward the door, but I'm faster. "Sit down," I say quietly. "All of you. It's time to finish this." The shareholders' meeting that afternoon becomes the most dramatic in Chen Group history. With my father presiding and 200 shareholders in attendance, I present the evidence of 20 years of embezzlement, murder, and corporate manipulation. Uncle Wei Ming, given an antidote to clear his system, testifies with heartbreaking clarity about how Lin Xiaoya had gradually taken control of his decisions and isolated him from the family. The medical records I'd obtained through Marcus's connections proved the systematic poisoning. But the most damning evidence comes from an unexpected source: Zhou Kaiming's final gift to me. Before confronting Lin Xiaoya the previous night, he'd recorded their entire conversation on his phone. The recording captures her admitting to my mother's murder, her plans to kill both Uncle Weiming and me, and her intention to sell the Chen Group's research to foreign interests. When the recording plays through the meeting room's speakers, Lin Xiaoya's careful composure finally cracks. "You have no proof," she shrieks, lunging toward the podium. "That recording could be fabricated. You can't prove anything." "Actually," says a calm voice from the back of the room, "we can." Everyone turns to see Marcus walking down the aisle, followed by two men in dark suits who have the unmistakable bearing of government agents. "Marcus Chen," Lin Xiaoya breathes, her face going pale. "What are you doing here?" "Cleaning up a mess that should have been handled years ago." Marcus's voice is cold, professional. "Lin Xiaoya, you're under arrest for murder, corporate espionage, and treason." As the agents move to restrain her, Lin Xiaoya turns to me with pure hatred in her eyes. "You think you've won? You have no idea what you've just destroyed. The Chen Group was finished anyway. Your family's research was already compromised. Your manufacturing process is already infiltrated. I was offering you a chance to profit from the inevitable." "Maybe," I say quietly, "but I'd rather fail honestly than succeed through murder." "You naive little girl," she snarls as the handcuffs click into place. "You think this ends with me? The people I work for don't forgive failures. They don't forget witnesses. Your entire family is marked now." Marcus steps forward, his expression deadly serious. "The people you work for are already in custody. The foreign pharmaceutical consortium you've been feeding information to has been under investigation for months. Your arrest was just the final piece we needed." Lin Xiaoya's face goes from pale to ashen. "Impossible. You couldn't have known about the Hengtai connection, about the shell companies, about the plan to steal and sell China's pharmaceutical research to foreign competitors?" Marcus's smile is sharp. "Lin Xiaoya, meet Agent Marcus Chen, Ministry of State Security, Economic Crimes Division." The revelation hits me like a physical blow. Marcus, my business partner, my ally, the man I've been falling in love with, is an undercover government agent. "You've been investigating my family this entire time," I whisper. He turns to me, and for the first time since I've known him, his expression is vulnerable. "I've been investigating the threat to your family. There's a difference." "How long have you known?" "About the foreign conspiracy? 18 months. "About your uncle's involvement? 6 months. "About Lin Xiaoya's plan to kill you?" His voice softens. 3 days ago, when Zhou Kaiming contacted us with information about an imminent threat to your life, everything clicks into place. Kaiming was working with you. Kaiming was trying to save you. When he realized the scope of what he'd become involved in, he reached out to us. The meeting last night, his confrontation with Lin Xiaoya, it was all coordinated to get her to reveal the full extent of her plans. And his death? Marcus's expression darkens. Was supposed to be staged. We had a protection detail in place. But Lin Xiaoya moved faster than we anticipated, and she had resources we didn't know about. The weight of everything, Kaiming's sacrifice, the years of deception, the magnitude of the conspiracy, threatens to overwhelm me. But there's one question I have to ask. What happens now? To the company, to my family, to us? Marcus looks around the room full of shocked shareholders and government agents, then back at me. Now we find out if what we built together was real, or just part of the cover story. 3 months after Lin Xiaoya's arrest, I'm standing in the renovated headquarters of Chen Group Pharmaceuticals, watching the sunrise through floor-to-ceiling windows that weren't there in my first life. The company survived the scandal, barely, and has emerged stronger under new leadership. Mine, officially, though Marcus's expertise guides most of our strategic decisions. Uncle Weiming is recovering in a specialized care facility, his mind gradually clearing as the effects of long-term poisoning fade. The doctors say he'll make a full recovery, though he's chosen to retire from business entirely. His shares in the company have been transferred to a trust that will fund medical research into cognitive disorders. My father has stepped down as CEO but remains as chairman of the board, finally free to pursue the humanitarian projects my mother had dreamed of. The discovery of her murder was devastating but also liberating. 20 years of guilt about failing to save her has been replaced by determination to honor her memory. On paper, we've won everything, but victory has come at a cost I'm still learning to understand. The quarterly reports look good, Marcus says, entering my office with 2 cups of coffee. He's shed the venture capitalist persona entirely now, working openly as a government liaison specializing in economic security. Manufacturing is up 30%, and the diabetes treatment trials are ahead of schedule. Any word on the Hang Tai executives? 12 arrests across 3 countries. The pharmaceutical espionage network was bigger than we initially thought. They'd been targeting companies across Asia for the better part of a decade. He sits across from my desk, professional distance maintained despite the intimacy that's grown between us. Your uncle's cooperation has been invaluable in mapping the full scope of their operations. We've been careful about our relationship since the truth came out. Marcus insisted on complete transparency with his superiors about our personal involvement, and I've been equally careful to maintain clear boundaries between our professional and private interactions. But there's an undercurrent of uncertainty that neither of us has been willing to address directly. Marcus, I say finally, we need to talk about what happens next. He sets down his coffee cup, his expression guarded. What do you mean? I mean the investigation is over, the arrests have been made, and the immediate threat to the company has been neutralized. How much longer do you need to maintain your position here? Are you asking when I'm leaving? I'm asking if you want to leave. For a long moment, he doesn't answer. Then he stands up and walks to the window, hands clasped behind his back in a gesture that reminds me uncomfortably of my father. Do you know why I requested this assignment? He asks finally. Because you were qualified for it? Because my mother was Dr. Chen Li's best friend. Because I grew up hearing stories about the brilliant woman who died too young and the family that never recovered from losing her. He turns to face me. I volunteered for this case because I wanted to find out what really happened to her. The revelation shouldn't surprise me. Marcus had always known too much about our family's history, but it still takes my breath away. You knew my mother? I met her twice at birthday parties when we were children. She was kind to me when my own mother was going through her divorce. I remembered her warmth, her intelligence. His voice softens. When I learned she'd been murdered, it became personal. So this was all about justice for my mother? It started that way, but somewhere along the line, it became about you. He steps closer, his professional facade finally cracking. Maylene, I need you to understand something. Everything I did as Agent Chen was my job, but everything I felt as Marcus, that was real. Before I can respond, my assistant's voice comes through the intercom. Miss Chen, there's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent. Who is it? Dr. Sarah Kim from our research division. She seems very upset. 5 minutes later, Dr. Kim is sitting in my office, her usually composed demeanor shattered. Her hands shake as she spreads photographs across my desk. Images of our secure research facility, taken from angles that suggest someone had been surveying the building for weeks. These were delivered to my apartment this morning, she says, along with this. She hands me a typed note. Dr. Kim, your work is impressive but incomplete. We have a proposition that will benefit everyone involved. Attend the medical conference in Geneva next week. Come alone. Failure to comply will result in unfortunate accidents. Marcus examines the photographs with professional intensity. These were taken by someone with surveillance training. Multiple vantage points, systematic coverage of security weak points. But who would... I stop mid-sentence as understanding dawns. The foreign consortium. Lin Xiaoya said the people she worked for don't forgive failures. They're regrouping, Marcus agrees grimly. Looking for alternative ways to acquire the research they couldn't steal through infiltration. Dr. Kim looks between us, fear evident in her eyes. What do I do? If I don't go to Geneva? You don't go anywhere, I say firmly. We'll handle this. But as Dr. Kim leaves, Marcus's expression is troubled. Maylene, this changes everything. If the consortium is still active, if they're willing to make direct threats. Then we deal with them the same way we dealt with Lin Xiaoya. We expose them, we arrest them, we shut them down. It's not that simple. These aren't Chinese nationals operating on domestic soil. The people behind this have diplomatic immunity, international legal protections, resources that make Lin Xiaoya look like a street criminal. He's right, and we both know it. The pharmaceutical espionage network Lin Xiaoya was part of represented just one tentacle of a much larger operation. By cutting it off, we've attracted the attention of the creature it was attached to. That evening, as I'm working late in my office, the lights suddenly go out. Emergency power kicks in a moment later, bathing everything in an eerie red glow, but the message is clear: someone has access to our building's systems. My computer screen flickers to life, displaying a video call from an encrypted number. The face that appears is middle-aged, European, with the kind of expensive grooming that suggests serious wealth. "Miss Chen," the man says in accented English, "my name is Dr. Heinrich Volkov. I believe you have something that belongs to me." "I don't know who you are or what you think I have." "You have research data stolen from my associate, Dr. Lin Xiaoya, before her unfortunate arrest. Research that represents significant investment on my part." His smile is cold, predatory. "I'm prepared to offer you fair compensation for its return. The research belongs to Chen Group. It was developed by our scientists using our resources." "Miss Chen, I think you misunderstand the situation. I'm not making a request. I'm informing you of reality." The video feed shifts to show what appears to be surveillance footage of my apartment building, my father's house, the care facility where Uncle Weiming is recovering. "Your family's safety depends on your cooperation." The screen goes black before I can respond, leaving me alone in the red-lit office with the understanding that our victory was only the beginning of a much more dangerous war. The next morning brings confirmation of my worst fears. Marcus arrives at the office with a thick file and an expression that tells me everything I need to know. "Dr. Heinrich Volkov," he says without preamble, "is the head of a Swiss-based pharmaceutical conglomerate with ties to organized crime, foreign intelligence services, and at least 3 different terrorist organizations. He's wanted by Interpol, but he operates from countries that don't have extradition treaties." How powerful is he? Powerful enough to have government officials on his payroll. Powerful enough to make people disappear without consequences. Powerful enough to wage economic warfare against entire countries. Marcus sits heavily in his chair. "Maylene, this man isn't someone we can fight through legal channels. If he wants our research, he'll take it. If he wants to hurt your family, he'll do it. And there's very little anyone can do to stop him." For the first time since my rebirth, I feel the same helpless terror I experienced in my first life as my car plunged off that mountain road. But this time, the stakes are higher. It's not just my life at risk, but everyone I love. "What are you suggesting?" I ask quietly. "I'm suggesting that maybe it's time to consider Dr. Volkov's offer. Give him what he wants, take whatever protection deal he's willing to offer, and hope he keeps his word." "You want me to surrender?" "I want you to survive, because the alternative—" Marcus's voice breaks slightly. "The alternative is watching everyone you care about pay the price for your principles." I spend the night in my office not because I'm afraid to go home, though I am, but because I need to think clearly about what comes next. By dawn, I've made my decision. Dr. Volkov wants our research. He can have it, but not the way he expects. The press conference I call for that afternoon draws media attention from across Asia. Standing before cameras and reporters, I announce that Chen Group Pharmaceuticals is making all of our diabetes treatment research freely available to the global medical community through an open-source initiative. Effective immediately, I declare, all patents, formulas, and manufacturing processes developed by our company will be released under international open-source licensing. Any organization, anywhere in the world can access and utilize this research for humanitarian purposes. The reaction is immediate and explosive. Marcus stares at me from the back of the room with something between admiration and horror. My father looks stunned but proud. And Dr. Volkov, watching the live stream from wherever he's hiding, realizes that I've just made his stolen research worthless. You can't corner a market on something that's freely available to everyone. My phone starts ringing within minutes. Other pharmaceutical companies, government officials, international health organizations. The open source announcement has created a tsunami of interest that will be impossible for any criminal organization to control or suppress. But more importantly, it's made me untouchable. Killing the woman who just gave away billions of dollars in research to help the global poor would create a public relations nightmare that even Dr. Volkov can't afford. That evening, Marcus finds me on the roof garden of our building, watching the city lights flicker to life in the gathering darkness. That was either the most brilliant strategic move I've ever seen, he says, sitting beside me on the bench, or the most expensive act of spite in corporate history. Maybe both. I lean back against the bench, feeling lighter than I have in months. I realized something today. In my first life, I spent so much energy trying to hold on to things. The company, my status, my relationships. I died clutching at control I never really had. And now I understand that real power comes from being willing to let go. Dr. Volkov wanted our research because it was exclusive, valuable, controlled. By making it free, I didn't just take away his prize. I took away his leverage. Marcus is quiet for a moment, then asks, "What happens next?" Next, we build something new. Not a pharmaceutical empire designed to maximize profit, but a research foundation dedicated to solving problems that matter. We use the attention from today's announcement to attract the best minds in the field, people who care more about impact than income. And us? What happens to us? I turn to look at him. This man who came into my life as a lie, but became the most honest relationship I've ever had. That depends. Are you Marcus Chen, the government agent? Or Marcus Chen, the man who wants to change the world? His smile is answer enough. As we sit together watching the city below, I realize that my rebirth was never about getting revenge or reclaiming my old life. It was about becoming strong enough to choose a completely different future. One where the people I love are safe, where my work serves something greater than myself, and where the girl who died on that mountain road can finally rest in peace. This isn't the end of my story, it's the beginning of the life I was meant to live.